There is an episode of Supernatural where Sam Winchester said that there's a monster in his closet. And his dad handed him a gun. Well, this is the reason why he handed him a gun. Because of Louis Garavito, who we're going over today.
Ladies and gentlemen of all ages, boys and girls, thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of Angry Meat Production. We appreciate you coming in and letting us be a part of your lives week in and week out. We hope to do our best to present you with something that your eardrums delight in. Whether you're looking at us on YouTube or Rumble, or listening to us on Spotify, Google, or Anchor, or any of the other podcast services that we are currently on or trying to get on. We thank you. And if you don't mind, at the end of every episode, stop by, leave us a comment, leave us a like. If it asks for 5 stars, we'll take 5 stars, even if you don't like us. 5 stars are what it's all about. With that being said, we hope you enjoy our attempt to make our advocation our vocation. Ladies and gentlemen, let the games begin. We here at Angry Me Production want to thank our sponsor, Mobile Notary Mindy. She's certified with the National Notary Association. She's also bonded and E&O insured. She offers a wide range of services including wills, powers of attorney, medical documents, healthcare proxies, living wills, certification of trust, assignment of personal property, HIPAA waivers, advanced healthcare directives, and 9/9 verification. You can find her on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram at Mobile Notary Mindy. You can also visit her webpage at TexasMobileNotaryMindy.com. That's TXMobileNotaryMindy.com. Thank you so much and enjoy the show.
Welcome, Angry Faithful. Yes, today we're going to go over Louis Garavito. And it's all because we went over Campo Delgado, where Louis Garavito got the inspiration to start his rampage and evil acts. And this guy is, I don't know how many times I actually say it, but sometimes this guy pushes the limits of why we need to stop evil people. This is one of those no-brainer type things. Every time I went over this a couple of times, just to get just to read it and understand it. And yes, podcast is not easy. Sometimes you get to an episode to where you think it's going to be easy, and you learn that you don't know how to read that well. But some of these scripted ones, I'm not gonna lie, they're kind of tough. I went over like 15, 16 times just to get this hopefully right. But let's begin. Louis Garavito was born January 25th, 1957, in Geneva, Colombia. He's the eldest of 7 children, was raised in Western Colombia. He attended school for only a few years, and he endured a difficult childhood, suffering from physical abuse. Well, it's basically all-around abuse from his father and several neighbors. Garavito was belittled as a imbecile, a bastard, and other Joseph. Stephen Hawking or Stephanie Hawking, since it's a female voice. Give us a
pejoratives
by his fathers. by his father, who claimed never a good word for him and solely bringed his son with him for work-related purposes and to run errands. Until when he did attend school, it was at the Solomon Boulevard School in Stephanie Hawkins, please.
Sealan.
He was initially cooperative and cheerful, but frequently ridiculed and bullied by other children. Garavito teachers noted his desire to learn conflicted with his extreme frustration with any inability to understand subjects. Nickname Grabanto, meaning squiggly, for his glasses and timid nature by his peers. Garavito was insecure of his glasses and eventually preferred playing alone at recess. He was quick to enter tantrums and raged violently towards students who chased and mocked him, squiggly, but they probably just Garbito. Despite the violent conflicts, his teachers made no attempts to intervene. This distressed Garavito, who accumulated resentment towards him being belittled by his father and envies toward peers from stable homes. Around 1968, he left school in the 5th grade due to poor memory and his father's insistence of making money to sustain the family. This dismayed Garavito, who was also forbidden to have friends or a girlfriend by his father. In 1969, Garavito was allegedly subject to extensive abuse, both physically and sexually, by the local drugstore owner and devout religious neighbor. On his father's visit to the store for Garavito's vaccination, Garavito claimed that the neighbor, who was a close friend of his father's, had bound him to a bed before sexually assaulting him and proceeded to burn him with a candle, cutting him with razor blades and biting his genital and buttocks on several occasions during these incidents of molestation. God, how do you want to make an asshole? This is how you make an asshole. The severity of these abuses, not even an asshole, it's more or less just a monster. This is how you create a monster. Some of these are pretty much created. We don't know if they would actually be, good in society if they got away from that physical abuse and stuff. So it's one of those things you'll never know. And then don't be shitty to your kids so they don't turn into like fucking assholes. That's all I'm saying. Try to be something. You gotta. I'm not trying to teach you how to treat kids and everything or treat your children, but one steady hand and a gracious one on the other. Treat them right. Jeez, don't be assholes. Anyways, that was my soapbox for the week. Probably, I'm going to do it again, probably. But the severity of this abuse, Garavito's various other claims of extreme abuse was later questioned by several experts and interviewers. Following the first instance of this abuse, Garavito alleged killed and dissected two birds in frustration. Oh, dissected. Okay. Dissected two birds in frustration, which prompted him to feel remorse and shame shortly thereafter. However, he could not shake the satisfaction of killing and mutilating cats, dogs, and any roadkill he could find. After stoning the bird, Garavito began suggesting to his younger brothers and sisters that they sleep with him naked in their shared bed. He then sexually fondled his younger siblings as he slept on multiple occasions after removing their clothes. Garavito also alleged he molested 6-year-old boy in 1969. According to those who knew him, Garavito became very withdrawn, extremely aggressive, and ready to take revenge on the world. The neighbor's sexual abuse ended after the family relocated to Trulano. Hold on, real quick.
Trujillo,
in 1971, and rendered Gravito sexually impotent. Impotent. Impotent? Yeah, impotent. With female partners and permanently unable to ejaculate properly. Believing that his father and family would not feel concerned or believe him, Gravito chose to hide his sexual abuse experiences. Soon after arriving in Trinidad, he was shown heterosexual pornography by other neighboring family friends. Because Gravito responded with disgust, the neighbors beat him into a undergrowth before raping him. Jesus. 1972, Gravito aggressively and repeatedly attempted to initiate sexual relations with women, but these advances were rejected. Throughout various alcoholic family members, Gravito accessed alcoholic drinks and developed an addiction to alcohol. A rebellious young man, Gravito was believed evicted in 1972 after being caught by his mother attempting to rape his 5-year-old boy, and again in 1973 following attempts to sexually assault a 6-year-old boy at a train station in Bogota. The boy screamed, which alerted authorities to arrest Gravito, who stated he only wanted to lightly molest the child in response to an attempt to rape. Jeez. How do you lightly? It was molestation. It wasn't like, God, I hate people. Some people, mostly people that have been incarcerated, and not saying those people are all bad. I'm just saying sometimes when me working as a correctional officer, most of the people that were in the prison system, they always, oh, it was because of this, because of that. They never took responsibility of their own actions. If they did, they would have to actually realize that they were at fault. And some of them did, and they were actually better for it, and they were better inmates for it. They knew why, the reason why they were there, and they were contempt where they understood the reason why they were doing the term that they are doing. But anyways, I digress. Following the latter of the young boy, with Gravito incarceration for young boys causing frequent arguments between him and his father, Miguel, he was evicted for the final time for homosexual behavior. As a young man, Gravito started working as an assistant at a compensation fund, and later in a chain of stores, and studied in marketing. Despite the newfound career, he began to have problems with his coworkers and clients and bosses, which gradually escalated his physical altercations. After losing his job, Gravito worked as a street vendor who sold religious icons and a migrant worker, developing primary platonic platonic relationships with various women over the course of his adulthood. In 1973, he began to work on a coffee plantation as a youth in I'm going to mess up this town's name, and I'm sorry for that. For from this town.
Trujillo,
first falling in love with a school teacher and single mother named Louis Marie Apa Orzonka, whom he later attended weekly mass service with. Many of the women he befriended had children who Gravito nurtured as if they were his own children. In addition to being a loving father when sober, his companions likewise described him to be implacable, and despite his notable violent temper, occasionally drunken states in which he vowed to murder his father. When drunk, Gravito was physically abusive towards his girlfriend, was increasingly jealous, controlling, and belittling. As a result, he is often subject to local scandals and town gossip, facing repeated evictions by his female partners in later life. 1970s, suffering from the symptoms of psychosis, paranoia, and depression, which was probably the alcohol. He began compulsively molesting both male and female children, developing an almost exclusive preference for pubescent boys due to depression and suicidal feelings related to his lack of achievement. He expressed desire to start a family. How do you get? You're so depressed and you want to start a family. Like, you know, I I hate to say this, but just because you're depressed doesn't mean you should, because usually when you do something like that, you put those kind of feelings and everything onto the other people in the family, and they don't need to have that. The family that you actually create, you don't need to do that to them. Fight your own self, then try to become a good person in other families and everything. And God, I hate people that, oh, if only if I had a girlfriend, maybe I wouldn't be so depressed. No, you're depressed because maybe you're lonely and you just need to go out and get some therapy first and fix you. Fixing you first, then yeah. Anyways, when drunk, Garavito insisted on having sexual intercourses with his female partners. Despite this, he suffered from frequent erectile dysfunction, which caused him extreme grief, often promoting him to enter rants concerning his hatred for his family to them. See, it happened. Like I'm a future person, something like that. Anyways, we'll get back to this. Garavito gradually developed alcoholism and began participating in Alcohol Anonymous meetings in 1978. Garavito also converted to Pentecostal faith and worked as a stone clerk, where he had gained meet his first girlfriend, Lewis. He worked as a store clerk where he had again met his first girlfriend, Lewis Marie. Drifting from his family, he was only close to his older sister, Esther, who avoided him due to his alcoholism. I'm not drunk. God, how can I say alcoholism as a thing to like I'm an alcoholic? But anyways, Garavito also held a resentment towards younger siblings for defending their father, whom he felt had largely favored them in childhood, relocating to the town of Armenia. Let me make sure I got that right.
Armenia,
Yeah, Armenia. I got it right. Yay, me. Garavito acquired a new job at a local bakery following his frequent attendance of local church services in which he was remorseful, beating his chest during prayer. Garavito attended Alcoholic Anonymous meetings and occasionally visited psychotherapists before ending his day by frequently he went to the Valesina Park to produce the services of child procure. Oh my God. Okay, that's the reason why. Okay, he went to this park to basically get child prostitutes. Sometimes I'm reading this stuff, and I swear I'm like, no, I'm not reading that right. Yes, you're definitely reading it. I think it's my dyslexia. I have high end dyslexia. And sometimes I read this stuff and I'm like, no, yeah, oh, no. Anyways, but in the 80s, after allegedly provoking a fight with his coworker, Garavito, employment at a bakery was terminated. He subsequently attempted suicide. Ah, man, why couldn't you finish that one? How do you know you're a failure when you're a monster? You should. Anyways, following the failed attempts, Garavito sought psychiatric care at the San Juan de Dinos hospital and was repeatedly hospitalized throughout the spring of 1980, where he expressed a desire to die over a belief that his life was worth nothing. He was primarily treated for the diagnosis of depression in the spite of evidence, psychosis, and Stephanie Hawkins. Please tell me what this actually says.
bulimia,
Okay, bulimia. He was, however, prescribed antipsychotics medication intended on being truthful with his psychiatrist. Garavito stated that he wanted to have children before misdirecting this statement into implying he wanted to start a family. Fearful of consequences, Garavito chose not to inform the psychiatrist of his pedophilia or his sexual impotence with female partners. Garavito later obtained employment in 1980 at a supermarket in Armenia. Being given 2-hour lunch breaks on Thursdays and Sunday afternoons, he would begin a short-lived relationship with a single mother and a beautician named Claudia, whom he described as being the first woman whose company he enjoyed. Claudia soon left Garavito as he apparently could not sustain Claudia's spending habits. Okay, she was a gold digger. Big deal. He began binding and raping children during his lunch breaks in the neighboring Kobalia and Stephanie Hawkins.
Calica,
During this period, Garavito expressed concerns urging to molest children he encountered at work. In the autumn of 1980, he began carrying razor blades, candles, and lighters to facilitate his torture of his victim. In addition, Garavito removed a tooth to be able to bite children more effectively. Following his crimes, he wrote the names of the molested children in a blue notebook and prayed for them while pacing his room, frequently beating his chest while naked in a ritual-like fashion. Garavito also began compulsively reading the Bible each night, attempting to find an explanation in the Book of Psalms for his deviance. Despite this, Garavito developed an avid interest in
esoteric,
study, tarot reading, and Satanism. He would visit palm readers and other occult practitioners before concluding they knew little regard of the occult. Afflicting bouts of depression and guilt from his crimes, Garavito suffered nightmares about his victims, waking up in tears before entering fits of hysterical laughter as he remembered the pleasure he received from their pain. Discovering out of Hitler's book, Mein Kampf, Garavito became fond of Hitler upon discovering. If you are fond with Hitler, you should be put down. I'm sorry. Not sorry. Upon discovering similarities in their early lives of homosexual experiences and years spent in vagrancy, this fondness developed into an idealization expressing an admiration for Hitler, mass graves, and the Holocaust, and stating that he liked the concentration camp. He liked the concentration camps. On January 25th, 1984, Garavito was housed under psychological care for 33 days following a mental breakdown. He was prescribed antipsychotic medications and referred to a psychotherapist for his depression. After obtaining a permit to leave on February 28, 1984, Garavito fled to Pereira, where he immediately molested, burnt, and bit 2 children in the sector of Gastanama.
Gethsemane.
Gethsemane. Damn. Illiterate in Spanish words. Before leaving their photographs with his older sister, when the children publicly identified him, Garavito fled the city, and then he was storing scalpels, candles, and razor blades in a plastic bag for future victims. Having molested and tortured more than 100 children by this period, Garavito was briefly detained for stealing jewelry from a friend. Garavito also developed an obsession for killing spree Campo Ellis Delgado, who murdered his own mother and several others in Bogota restaurant and in December 1986. Garavito admired the national attention it received and wished to emulate him, as he and others noted it on the television bar. From his point on, Garavito harbored extensive fantasies of acquiring a machine gun and annihilating his father and family before committing suicide, holding various murderers in great admiration. Garavito felt that committing suicide following a mass murder of his family would be an ideal way to die for him. During this period, Garavito found another girlfriend named Garcia Zedaba, a single mother who resided near the local psychiatric centers. Is that? Yeah. Psychiatric centers in which he was committed to. After introducing himself, Garavito casually suggested that she be his permanent companion. Charmed by his confidence, the beta let Garavito live with him, and in exchange for buying meals and paying bills in their Perduria household. Garavito was generally abusive, but acted as a protective and father figure over the household. Despite this, Zebedita was wary of Garavito's alcoholism, which often spurred scandalous and antisocial behavior. Like Louis Marie, Garavito also would later claim that he loved Zebedita. After being seen drunk in the company of various Protestant youths of humble appearance by his friends Geraldo Toro and Anazar Balasina, Gravito's companions became aware of his friend's predisdain. Despite this, Garavito was not confronted, and most of his male and female acquaintances did not suspect any sexual problems. During 1988, Garavito began documenting his crimes, keeping trophies from his victims in a black cloth suitcase at several females' residences. Between 1980 and 1992, Garavito estimated that he raped and tortured a minimum of 200 youths, a period in which he had actively spent 5 years under psychiatric care, having attempted suicide several times. Wherever Garavito had resided during this time, reports of child molestation in the area increased dramatically. While operating a Ouija board, Garavito alleged that he entered a state of psychosis in which the devil had asked whether he would like to serve him. Answering that he would, the devil responds saying, "Kill that which killing many things may come." Attempting to commit his first murder on October 1st, 1992, Garavito sought a young boy who had been selling sweets and cigars but to passerbys. In a state of drunkenness, he lured the young boy, who he planned to bring on a wooden lot, to the Millennium Hotel sector in Bolivia, Colombia, before being interrupted and beaten by local cops, one of whom hit him over the head with his revolver. As Garavito bled, they then stole 1,000 pesos, a watch, a ring from him before letting him go to the police station. Garavito then resolved to commit murder 3 days later. Committing his first murder of a boy named Juan Carlos on October 4th, 1992, Garavito began wearing various disguises in order to evade identification and arrest. Known locally as Goofy, a generous man who gave to children in Charlotte, locals went out of their way to keep documents for Garavito. For years, Garavito's documented his crimes by tickets, receipt, cloths, and identity cards of victims in a black cloth suitcase. Garavito left the suitcase with his sister Esther before giving it to Louis Marie. He also collected their amputated toe before disposing of them for fear of the Colombian National Police scent dog team may trace them to him. In June 1996, Garavito complained to Louis Marie of losing his temporary job as a salesman for air fresheners, begging for a place to stay in exchange for food and financial relief. Garavito, worried of Garavito's alcoholism and temper, she took him in and briefed with hesitation. Garavito then suffered a hard fall into a temporary. No, wait a minute. He then suffered a hard fall with the Guatemalan neighborhood of Bogota, breaking his leg in August 1996. Stricken with pain, he resided temporarily with a man before begging his girlfriend, Mary, to let him stay with her in the residence again. Restricted by having to use crutches, wearing a neck brace and cast, Garavito restored to begging on the streets for 2 months. He resided with her. Garavito provided for the household by paying for meals and other means, such as bringing a television. He remained hostile, however, and entered a fight with his girlfriend's 15-year-old son for wanting to watch the local news. Louis Mary sustained evicting Garavito, who derailed her son as disrespectful and rude, and had also damaged a gold chain she had gifted him. Later that year, on Christmas Day, Louis Mary received a gift from a visiting friend, which prompted an angry, drunken phone call from Garavito, who stated that he didn't like those, derogatory name for gay people. Visiting as he feared they would steal her. Visiting as he feared they would steal her generosity from Garavito. After being informed he was no longer welcome, Garavito appeared the next morning shouting obscenities and threats while grabbing at Louis Marie's throat, prompting her and the family to hide in the neighbor's house. After several hours, Garavito left a apology note asking her for forgiveness and nothing his damage to their household. Nicknamed Conflict by locals, Garavito was frequently seen drunk and drifting from town to town as he outwore his welcome, often due to his domestic disputes with coworkers, abuses with his girlfriend, and generally inability to behave normally. His erratic behavior reportedly left him unable to develop meaningful relationships despite living with 2 different women in Pandora at the time of his arrest. Towards the end, Garavito's crime spree, he drifted through Western Colombia as a homeless drifter, wary of murdering minors who he felt was too easy to lure. Garavito developed a plan to eventually commit a mass murder in which he would kidnap several adults and murdered them as he attracted the attention of journalists, possibly dying in the frenzy. Nevertheless to say, Garavito was detained for attempting sexual assault of a 12-year-old John Ives Sagabalola. before being able to perform this mass murder in April 22nd, 1999. A prolific, but the surviving victims, William Trudeau Mora, an unidentified youth, Carlos Alberto, uh, Bran Alvarez, all survived these. According to Garavito, he primarily targeted children of humble backgrounds who were working class, homeless, peasants, or orphaned, claiming to feel a force within that compelled him to kill. Garavito would look for children and lure them away by bribing them with small gifts such as money, candy, and odd jobs. He typically abused thin children with soft features, fair eyes, hair, or complexions that he deemed innocent looking. Born and raised in the largely Spanish descent Paja region of Colombia, Garavito knew where to find his victims to fit the criteria. Terrified of the dark, he would approach them in broad daylight in public places, ranging from the courtside to crowded city streets. Garavito also drunk brandy near school zones on evenings to wait for his unwilling victims. Once he had the trust of a child, Garavito typically walked to a secluded spot or mass grave site with the victims, encouraged them to talk about their personal lives until they were tired and vulnerable, which then made them easy to handle. After snapping about half a bottle of brandy, Garavito bound the children, intimidating them with a knife as he fondled and sometimes masturbated over them. Lord, God, he lived longer than he should have. Let's just say that. He made a pact with the devil and satanic rituals as he incorporated into murdering the children, who were apparently blood sacrifices. The children were often molested and tortured simultaneously for prolonged periods, with methods ranging from being stabbed with a screwdriver in the buttocks, hands and feet having their buttocks flayed with broken blades that Garavito had placed between his fingers. While alive, Garavito severed their genitals and placed them into the child's mouth. They were extensively beaten, burned, trampled, and often showed deep cuts in the back, belly, and throat. In some cases, they were sexually abused as their intestine poured out of their bellies, impelling them through their anus and out of their mouth, and stabbing over 100 times. During the investigation beginning in 1980, minors from impoverished backgrounds and other groups termed just discharitable or disposable began disappearing rapidly in the streets of Colombia due to this decades-long civil war. Victims were unlikely to report missing. The group's children discovered a skeleton in Pandora while playing football in November 7th, 1998. Yet authorities did not take much notice until November 15th, when the mass graves of many of the 36 children were uncovered. Almost all of them boys with signs of binding, sexual assault, and prolonged torture. They discovered that a total of 41 children in the department of
Risaralda,
with 27 children discovered in neighboring Villadora, del Corsica. This large number of missing children called a widespread investigation, as these killings were not confined to a specific area. The brutality was so fierce to authorities that they initially hypothesized the killings were performed by a satanic cult or an international child trafficking ring. In spite of this, the prosecutors office quickly speculated that it was likely one man to be responsible for the killings due to the prevalence of nylon cord and liquor bottle caps found at all the crime scenes. On February 6, 1999, outside the town of Palomara, The bodies of 2 naked children were found lying next to each other on the hill near a sugarcane field. The next day, and only meters away, they discovered other children's bodies. All 3 bodies had their hands bound and bore signs of sexual abuse. The victims' necks were severely cut and bruised around the backs and genital legs and buttocks. Mm. The murder weapon was found in the same area as the bodies. Gravitos had passed out, particularly naked, on top of the children's corpse while drunk with a cigarette in his left hand, causing the cane field to catch on fire. He burned himself severely in the process and left behind his money, burnt glasses, short shoes, and underwear. Recipients had noted containing
Graciela Zabalitas.
address was also found. From his glasses, the authorities were able to determine the local serial killer was middle-aged and had a astigmatism in his left eye. His shoe also showed that he walked with a limp and stood 5'4" to 5'6" tall. They falsely arrested a local sex offender named Pedro Pablo Ramirez Garcia, who was 44 and had a limp in his right foot. As two boys disappeared from Perola, a young boy had outed Garcia as a man who attempted to assault him. He was kept in jail until more children began disappearing in Bogota. Meanwhile, Almor Duran, the main detective, had begun suspecting Garavito as the wanted killer. Garavito's girlfriend was contacted and told police that she had not seen him in months. She did, however, give the police a black cloth suitcase that Garavito had left in her possession, which contained a number of his belongings. These items include pictures of young boys, detailed journals of his murders, tail marks of his victims, and bills. This new information led them to Garavito's residence, but the property was vacant. Detectives believed that Garavito was either traveling for work or away attempting to find his next victim. Garcia was released after Duran was able to track down the girlfriend and sister of Garavito. Garavito was picked up by local police just few days later on the unrelated charges attempting to rape a 12-year-old John Ivan Sogola on April 22nd, 1999. Garavito was drinking brandy in the evening when he encountered Sogola selling lottery tickets in the city of Venice. Stephanie Hawkins.
Villavicencio.
Introducing himself as Bonifay Morales Liscano, a local politician. Garavito proceeds to seize Sogola with a knife before threatening the child into silence. Pretending to hug Sogola, Garavito escorted him to a taxi before forcing him to climb a barbed wire fence that led into a secluded hillside. At this location, Garavito proceeded to bind Sogola while repeatedly screaming, "I'm a sadist." He then taunted the children with a blade, shouting various obscurities as he masturbated over him. Oh, God. Oh. A homeless 16-year-old had been close enough to hear the strugglings between Garavito and the child. The teen began to curse and throw stones at Garavito. Garavito chased the teenager with his dagger. Both the boy and the teen fled to the Rosa Blanca farmhouse location in Low Corona Road in Valencina, where they were met by a 12-year-old girl. Garavito later reached the farmhouse and aggressively asked the girl for directions. The directions Garavito into the woods, where he became lost. The police contacted, resulting in a search. Authorities found Garavito walking outside the woods at approximately 7 p.m. as they urged angry locals not to get involved in the search. He gave them a false ID and claimed to be a politician, Liscano. Despite this, they suspected the man to be Garavito's anyways. On July 4th, 1999, the suspicions were confirmed. For Colombian Justice Department, Gravito confession was not enough. Gravito had an eye condition that was rare and only found in men's in a particular age group. His glasses were specifically designed for this new unique condition. These particular glasses were found at the crime scene. Gravito also left behind bottles of brandy, his underwear, and his shoes. DNA was found on the victims, along with other items left behind. Police scheduled the entire jail where Gravito was being detained to get an eye exam, the outcome of which would help police pair the glasses to Gravito. By making it mandatory for all prisoners, it reduced Gravito's suspicions and kept him from lying about his eyesight. His height was 5'5", and limp were also crucial in connecting him to the investigators' findings. While Gravito was out of his cell, detectives took DNA samples from his pillow and living area. The DNA found on the victims was a match DNA found on Gravito's cell. Gravito confessed to murdering about 140 children and was charged with killing 172 altogether throughout Colombia. He was found guilty of 138 of the 172 counts. The others are still ongoing. Gravito was sentenced to 1,853 years and 9 days in prison, the longest sentence in Colombian history. However, Colombian law limits imprisonment to 40, and because Gravito helped police find victims' bodies, he was sentenced to reduce to 22 years. Oh. And I can tell you the reason why that was a limitation. Because of Pablo Escobar. And the reason why it was because of Pablo Escobar, he convinced a lot of the laws to be like just short. They can only do a little bit of time frame because Pablo Escobar was actually a politician. He was also a politician. But anyways, Gravito served his sentence in a maximum security prison in Valledupar in the department of El Cesar in Colombia. He was held separately from other prisoners because it was feared that he would be killed immediately. He shouldn't have been killed. He became eligible for parole in 2023 when he had a severe 3/5 of his sentence. In 2021, the judge blocked the request to release Gravito early due to his good behavior in prisons on the grounds that he not pay a fine for his victims. Ooh, good call from that judge. Garavito remained hopeful, and having expressed to Colombian Senator Carlos Morales de Carlo apparent plans to enter Colombia's Congress, entering the ministry as a Pentecostal pastor and marry a woman, and rejecting of his self-admitted homosexuality. Yeah. I guess he wanted to, man, some countries and their political stigmas and not stigmas, how do you become a politician in other countries? It's ridiculous. But he tried to become a congressman in Colombia in the hopes that he would be able to help abused children upon his release. Garavito suffered severe eye cancer and leukemia, which left him blind, weak, and fragile, requiring daily blood transfusion. You could have stopped the blood transfusion. He spent most of his time making handcuffs, earrings, necklaces in the medical unit of Valledupar's prison. Psychologists diagnosed him with antisocial personality disorder, but he eventually died in the hospital of Valledupar at the age of 66. Now, What are the Colombians thinking of this? Many Colombians criticized the possibility of Garavito's early release. In recent years, Colombians have increasingly felt that Garavito's sentence was not sufficient punishment for his crimes. Some argued that he deserved the either life imprisonment or the death penalty, which he actually got life imprisonment because he was never released. He died in prison, but should have got the death penalty beforehand. That's just my opinion. And I'm pretty sure that people like listen to this and they'll comment that he should have died in prison or he should have had the death penalty. They should have chopped his head off once they found all enough evidence. But that's just me. Colombian law had no prevalent of method to impose a sentence longer than Garavito's received, which had been seen as a deficiency in the law caused by failure to address the possibility of a serial killer in Colombian society. The law has since increased the maximum penalties of such crimes to 60 years in prison. And that is about it about Luis Gustavo. Yeah, he should have gotten the death penalty. So easy. He should have got the death penalty of all the stuff that he was actually committed. He made mass graves. So, yeah. Well, anyways, everybody, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoy this and have a good day.